First, let me say thank you for the opportunity I can speak to you and I can talk to you, because the Polish position is quite important among the Europe, and I think that our voice is hearable. So it's great pleasure to be here. According to the Just Transition, it's quite important to not to forget about the people during all this process of going to the net zero economy. We cannot forget about the householders and the business owners, especially in these areas where the fossil fuels used to be important. We have in Poland quite few areas where the hard coal was mining, and we cannot forget about the jobs and the businesses and the industry which was there and still is there, and we cannot leave any person behind. So we have to focus not only on the climate goals, which are quite important and absolutely essential, but as essential is as a society of Poland, of Europe, of the whole world, if, of course also the south of the world. So the just transition means transition based on the justice.
معروف بأنه بولندا من أكثر المدافعين عن الطاقة النووية، بالرغم من أنه في اختلاف بالأصوات مع بعض الدول الأوروبية. حدثينا أكثر، لماذا هذا الدفاع، وخصوصا في ظل الاستراتيجية الجديدة للمزيد من محطات الطاقة النووية واستخدام التكنولوجيا فيها؟
Nuclear energy is a must. It's a simple story. As today said the Ministry of Energy of Sweden, less politics, more physics. To accelerate our decarbonization process, we need a stable energy in our base load. It means that we have something to cover or to replace the fossil fuel power plants. Because the stable energy means the security and sovereignty of each and every country. And that leads us to the only solution, means large and small nuclear power plants. And of course, it's obvious for more and more countries that if we would like to go away from the fossil fuels forever, not for 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, but not for the decades even, forever, we need the stable energy instead of the fossil fuel power plants. And if you mentioned Germany, if you will check the system, from the very first day they decided to close the last nuclear power plant, they face the lack of the capacity in their system. So they have to buy the energy. And the main source they are buying from is France, which is based on nuclear. So that means they need the nuclear energy, even though they close their own source. I will repeat, it's a must. If we are talking seriously about the net zero in 2050, we need the large scale and small scale energy in our system. And I will repeat, less politics, more physics.
يعني مهم جدا طبعا ما ذكرتي، وأتفهم تماما وجهة النظر اللي عليها معارضة ربما تكون من أوروبا. الحديث هنا بأنه من الصعب التخلي عن أي نوع من أنواع الطاقة في الوقت الذي العالم يحتاج لأي نمو اقتصادي واستمرار النمو الاقتصادي لكل أنواع الطاقة، وفي وقت بعض أجزاء العالم كما ذكرتي الجلوبال ساوث جنوب العالم يعاني من فقر الطاقة أصلا. بالتالي اليوم الحديث هل هو عن إنهاء نوع من أنواع الطاقة أو ربما إنهاء التلوث الذي يأتي من استخدام أنواع طاقة مختلفة؟
We need to be wise and we have to plan long term. So in the base load, I will repeat it again, the nuclear power plants, the nuclear energy is a must. Of course, we need also renewables. But to put renewables into system, we need a nuclear plant. Because if we will not put it there, our grid, our transition system will not face this challenge of the unstable renewables. So we have to think about it wisely. Of course, the new technologies are also the solutions. The CCS means the carbon capture systems and solutions are also an option. But firstly, we have to face the reality. And the reality is that we need in our system not only renewables but also stable sources. It means we need the nuclear. So the proper wise mix of the nuclear in the baseload, and then the renewables to add to the mix is the future for all the world.
معاليك أيضا من الأمور التي تناقش عليها بولندا وبشكل كبير هو موضوع سيارات العاملة بالوقود الأحفوري، وكذلك استخدام الفحم الذي شفنا عودة إليه بشكل كبير جدا مع الأزمة الأوكرانية، حتى قبل يعني أكثر من قبل الأزمة. الحديث هنا بأنه السيارات الكهربائية على سبيل المثال الجروث ريت، النمو المتوقع من السيارات الكهربائية ليس بالمعدل اللي الطموح العالمي موجود وحضراتكم تتحدثون به. كيف تشوفوا العالم يتخلى عن السيارات بالوقود الأحفوري خلال المرحلة القادمة، وكيف لنا أن نتخلى عن الفحم بوقت ألمانيا أكبر دول الاتحاد الأوروبي هي أول من عاد إلى استخدام الفحم أكثر مع نقص الطاقة؟
That leads us back to the first question you have asked, just transition, and that leads us back to the second question you have asked, means the energy mix. The electric cars, e-cars, are a good solution for some part of the world, but are not the solution for all the world, even for the Europe, because the energy consumption which is needed to utilize this kind of car is huge. And the last year, when the aggression of Russia to Ukraine lead us all to the threats of lack of energy and the blackouts, shows us that we have to be wise and based on the mathematics and physics, not only ideology. I remember last autumn when we supported Ukraine with the energy and with the spare parts for the bombed infrastructure. And of course, the threat, the fear across the Europe lead us to the real questions, I would say. If we want to be more ideological or practical, and the practice is that we will still use the car with the fossil fuels, e-fuels maybe in the future. That leads us to the hydrogen, but it's the long story, not for this short conversation. But for the next decades, we will still need the cars with the fuel we know. Of course, decarbonization is very important, it's essential. But we cannot forget about the people, the society, and the economy. No future for the decarbonization will be appreciated by the society if it will left behind the realistic situation of the most of the people of the world.
من الأمور الأخيرة اللي بحب ناقشها معك هو موضوع الفاينانسينج، التمويل. اليوم كوب 28 يركز على موضوع التمويل العادل للجميع وانكلوسيفيتي، يعني إشراك الجميع في هذا الموضوع. كيف لنا أن نتحرك بموضوع إغلاق هذه الفجوة في التمويل المناخي في العالم كله في وقت الذي لا يتم المشاركة كما يجب من قبل الدول الكبيرة اللي هي مسؤولة عن الانبعاثات الأكبر في العالم؟
The change of our energy mix is extremely expensive. Only the first project of Polish power plants, which is accelerating and which is most advanced, it cost us 100 billion zloty, means 25 billion of US dollars. The TSOs, the transition system, needs to be developed also. So we need a huge amount of money to invest in this process. And of course, there is an important role of the International Finance Organization, the World Bank, but also the responsibility of the countries which emits most of the CO2. That's lead us to this loss and damage fund, which was found yesterday, and this is one of the solutions. But the proper path to proceed with is to work on our own state yard and prepare our economies for this effort, but also support other economies, especially from the south, because if we will not, we will face the huge humanitarian crisis with the refugees from the hot south to the north, and our economy is not so resilient to keep with that. So we have, for all of us, be realistic and be honest. That's why my solution is work on your own yard. It's quite important, but also support others.
شكرا جزيلا لك معاليك على حضورك معنا اليوم، وكل التوفيق لكم في كوب 28.